presenter is someone I have a great deal of respect for. Also is our very own Andy Gilmore. Andy has taken on the milfoil program, and since Andy came to town and since we doubled our dive team, we've managed to really do some very, very good work. We're proud of Andy. We work well with him. The regional district is comfortable with Andy and we have a great deal of faith in you, Andy. So help me welcome Andy Gilmore.
Thank you, Grace. That's very kind of you to say. Thank you, everybody, for coming today. We've got a short video I'd like to open with myself and I believe Chad Freeman actually working underwater, so it kind of gives you an idea of what we're actually doing down there.
Is there any sound? Just
Yeah, so what we're doing there is making sure we're grabbing the root base of the plant and putting it into those mesh bags that you see there. And while we're doing that, we're kind of working slowly and carefully to make sure no fragments are breaking off the plants and escaping, as those would lead to further plants regrowing.
Where is the lead are you doing?
That's at the south end. I believe this was filmed at Shoeley's.
Notice how murky it gets. So they're constantly working in that environment where they have to, wait for things to clear sometimes too.
Yeah, that's right. We're kind of careful to, you'll see that we're not really moving our legs too much to disturb the bottom. And there is quite a bit of a technique that you learn over the years to keep your visibility. Because as you can see, obviously you can do a much better job. Right there, that's at about 20 feet. Milfoil doesn't grow much deeper than 25 to 30 feet at a maximum. So we're in quite shallow waters for most of our day. So you can see how large and dense that plant bed is there. With two of us working there, we could probably get that cleaned up in about 20 minutes.
Are ever one of those plants milfoil?
Yeah, that's a bed right there of pure Eurasian milfoil. We also often work in areas where there's a mixture of native plant, and we do our best to leave as much native plant as we can so that the milfoil doesn't grow back in that area.
How many times has this area been harvested?
This year we were able to put 2 treatments in on that site, which has not been done before. That speaks to the decrease in plants in the last 3 years because we've been spending more and more dive time each year with the 2-crew system that we implemented in 2012.
So the roots don't go very deep.
No, the roots probably only penetrate the substrate about 2 inches or so. And in the South Basin especially, it's a very soft bottom, so they come out quite easily. In some of the more northern shorelines, it's much rockier, and you do have to struggle with the rocks and gravel a bit to remove them.
How many years would it have taken to grow that?
That patch was probably only a year old. You can see some root fragments floating on that little fragment there, and that's so that we get plant trying to reroot.
Are you able to do most of the areas on an annual basis, or do you do it on a grid, or how do you determine?
Yes, we do. We have every single site on the lake is a catalog GPS site that corresponds to a GPS location and a photo that we use in our site book. That's kind of how we keep track of where we're working, when we're working, what times and dates, and that's all going to be reflected in the annual report this year. So this year, in general, the entire lake was surveyed and controlled twice, which is the first time that's happened, I believe. And the problematic Southern Bay where we were working there, we try and get in at least once a week, every Thursday. We work in the south all year round. And then we also we start our season there and we work the entire shoreline, and then we end the season there as well and control it a second time. So we're thinking for 2014 there's going to be a much smaller plant regeneration, and that'll translate into more and more passes, times that we're able to control that area. As many as sorry, that's sorry, dude. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
What happens to that milfoil when you take it out of the lake?
We take it to Dave Duran's nursery, and it's used as organic compost. But I've got just a short speech here, and then I can answer some questions at the end, and maybe my presentation will answer whatever questions you might have. As many of us know, Eurasian watermilfoil is an invasive aquatic plant that exists in Christina Lake, as well as many other water bodies in Canada and the United States. Unlike other aquatic plants, milfoil is capable of spreading by fragmentation, thus enabling it to vastly outcompete other aquatic species and take over river lakes and at a frightening pace. In addition to fragmentation capabilities, milfoil also grows exponentially faster than other native plant species, making it a true threat to the health and welfare of aquatic ecosystems. If left unchecked and uncontrolled, Eurasian milfoil can quickly take over the shoreline of lakes and riverbeds, destroying fish spawning grounds and ruining waterfront owners' property, making swimming or boating impossible. In 2013 marked the 27th consecutive year of Eurasian milfoil control methods of Christina Lake by the Regional District Kootenay boundary using scuba methods. This program has evolved over the years to keep up with the continuing issue of infestation in Christina Lake, with the biggest change occurring last year in 2012 when the program received a budget increase and a second crew of divers was hired. Diving operations began on April 30th of this year with a total of 8 certified commercial divers working on rotating 9-hour shifts from Monday to Thursday or Thursday to Sunday. This schedule allowed for the milfoil boat to be in operation 7 days per week, with the exception of holidays, until diving operations ended Friday, November 8th. I am pleased to announce that enormous measurable success was achieved in 2013, and for the first time in decades, the complex issue of Eurasian milfoil infestation is finally under firm control in Christina Lake at this time. As previously noted, diving operations began at the end of April this season, the earliest the program has ever been able to start. Previous year's works has seen a reduction in plant density in most northern areas of Christina Lake, but the southern section, as usual, provided the largest challenge. So this is actually a picture of the 2012 crew. There was a few changes, but you can see our boat there and Bob Freeman's boat, which we lease on Thursdays. The dive crew began control procedures at La Valley Point on Tuesday, April 30th. The crew began to systematically work its way south through the thickest areas of milfoil infestation, including the always problematic resort properties such as Scans, Shoeleys, Christina Lakeside, and Christina Sands. I am pleased to report that as a result of last season's concentrated efforts on this section of the lake, plant count numbers were up to 80% less than in 2012, and control procedures through this section of the lake progressed much quicker than expected. There are still some sections of shoreline where plant density was high, but overall, this southern section of shoreline was in much better condition than it has been in many years. By the end of May, the crew had completed the majority of the southeastern side of the lake from La Valley Point down to Christina Sands Resort. Extreme dense locations along this stretch were still targeted each Thursday where crew schedules overlapped, now enabling all 8 divers to attack large plant beds and allowing for enormous production on these days. On such days, tens of thousands of plants were documented to be removed, which translates into 3 to 4 full truck beds of milfoil being removed from the lake and taken to compost piles. With the southeastern side of the lake successfully controlled, the crew began working its way north from the mouth of Christina Creek along the western shoreline. Once again, a significantly lower number of plants were recorded in this previously troublesome section, and the crew progressed north at a quick pace. Diving operations systematically continued through the spring and into the summer, working the western shoreline heading north. Plant count numbers were once again consistently lower than ever before throughout nearly every catalog site, proving the effectiveness of the 2012 program efforts and the benefit of having an enlarged diving operation. As the crew continued its work north heading down the lake, one site of specific interest this season was Provincial Park Treadmill Creek. In past, this 200-meter stretch of beach was left largely uncontrolled due to the sheer size of plant bed found here and due to the time constraints of the program. Because dive operations were moving at a record pace this season, the crew was able to spend a week at this site and successfully eliminated all milfoil infesting this site for the first time in program's history. Successful elimination of this site will have a highly beneficial effect on the well-being of the lake in general, as this was a significant point of plant fragmentation. So there's a picture of how big those plants were at Treadmill Creek. It's a bit hard to tell there, but they were about 12 feet tall. So that was a challenging task for sure. Due to the overall decrease in plant numbers at Christina Lake in 2013, the dive crew was able to efficiently survey and control the lake in record time, finishing a first complete lap on Monday, August 26th. For the first time in program history, the dive crew began a second round of control procedures, once again starting back at the southern shoreline of a valley point in September. Overall plant size and plant count decreased once again during the second round of control procedures, and the crew moved quickly down the lake again. Starting to sound repetitive, eh?
That's what we want.
While the shallow southern bay of Christina Lake will always have the problem of Eurasian milfoil infestation to deal with, the situation is no longer at a critical level. Concentrated efforts in 2012 and 2013 have seen an enormous reduction in plant bed density throughout the most problematic sites of infestation here in the lake. As long as these sections receive annual or biannual treatment if possible, a high level of control is realistically achievable. The second round of control procedures on the lake outside of the southern shallow regions saw truly positive results from previous efforts. Many sites in the spring and summer months saw very little plant regeneration, and divers often found themselves surveying through many sites finding no instances of infestation. Generally speaking, both sides of the lake north of the valley point saw minimal plant count numbers during the second round of control procedures. In an effort to help better inform the public on where and when the milfoil boat is working around the lake, an initiative began in 2012 to monitor the boat using a GPS tracking system installed in the Supervisor's smartphone. This data was uploaded monthly to the RDKB website for public access. While somewhat successful, the system had glitches due to frequent loss in cell reception, particularly in the north areas of Christina Lake. This method of recording was abandoned in 2013, and instead the supervisor kept a detailed logbook of what sites and the crew was working, where, and on what dates. This information was then relayed to the IT department at the RDKB, who periodically updated the satellite map of the lake and showing the areas where the crew had been working. So access was available on this link on the RDKB website. If you go onto the website, it's under Environmental Services, Invasive Plants, and then in the milfoil section. So this is the final overview of the map at the end of our season, and the areas shaded in shows exactly where we controlled 2 passes on the entire lake, with the exception of this little gray area here, and that was only controlled once. And then the 2 areas where we do no control are the very southern basin here. That's the Sutherland Nature Park. And at the very end here, the North Bay Lagoon. And those are the 2 areas that are buoyed off, so no boat traffic can get in. While the majority of the shoreline of Christina Lake currently enjoys the lowest levels of Eurasian milfoil infestation seen in over a decade, there are still several problematic areas remaining. The shallow southern basin of Christina Lake will always suffer a high concentration of plants due to its geographic makeup. The relatively shallow shoreline in this area translates to enlarged littoral zone, allowing for a more widespread area of plant infestation. The drainage point of Christina Creek in the southernmost corner of the lake creates an outflow in this area, so milfoil fragments from all over the lake congregate and grow here over time. Boat traffic, sunlight, and warm growing conditions all add to the problem, making the southern basin a perfect habitat for milfoil to proliferate. So there's a picture from a neighbor's dock at the southern bay showing the large area of plant behind the buoys there. Not all of that is milfoil, there's a lot of other native plant in there, but there is quite a big mixture of milfoil as well. So this is a brief slide about the weevils that we've been talking about for a couple of years. Unfortunately, the biologist, the master student who's supposed to be here, she's not able to be here. I don't actually know much information about the weevils.
She was heading from the university and left here, so she might be delayed and be here later
Okay.
in the day.
So maybe we'll hold off on the weevils for now.
Yeah.
The goals for the 2014 program will be to continue on with the notable success accomplished in 2012 and 2013. The continuation of an enlarged dive crew will enable the RDKB to keep the milfoil situation in Christina Lake firmly under control. Plant count numbers are expected to decrease in the upcoming season due to the 2 rounds of treatment achieved during 2013. 2 rounds of control are also expected to be possible in 2014 as well. Overall, the battle against this problematic invasive plant is going well in Christina Lake. Previously out of control areas have been eliminated, and the number of plants found in most areas of the lake in previous years is steadily decreasing. The future health and well-being of this beautiful lake looks promising for many years to come. And that's it.
Question, when you pull the milfoil out, when you go back and revisit those sites, is there native plants that's growing back in there, or is it milfoil?
In a lot of instances, there is some native plant that slowly grows back, but also the milfoil comes back too. We try to leave the native plants as undisturbed as possible, so that is kind of our hope that they will regrow. Yes, Peter at the back.
Andy, I think all of the Christina Lake residents know that this program that you've done such a fabulous job with is costing us somewhere over $300,000 a year.
280.
Pardon me?
280.
286,
And to that end, my next statement is going to be, we need to thank everybody in this room because they're part of that taxation. So you need to look at yourself and say, right on, we agreed, we didn't give Grace a hassle on it. So, thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you very much for all your support.
However, over the years, the stewardship group, as probably as well as others, have been hassling the provincial government to step up to the plate, okay, and pay their fair share of the cost of cleaning up Gladstone, the shoreline of Gladstone Park. We have a representative from BC Parks here who is now able to see what you've done at Treadmill. You haven't shown what you've done elsewhere in the park, but I'm sure it's just as good. Could we ask Ryan to step up and say whether there's any hope in the budget to start covering some of the costs?
Sorry, Ryan.
We'll move the bus later.
We don't, as most of you know, we don't have a huge budget, and we do invasive plant stuff around the province, but we have priority spots and we pick our battles, and we try to target smaller, more manageable areas. So at this time, I don't see any money in the future, unfortunately. So
We've all heard it. Thank you.
Yeah, and I'll add to that a little bit if you want. We've beaten this and beaten this and beaten this and beaten this, and I could go on repeating that for ad infinity. And, you know, the truth of the matter is the province has just simply said there is no money for this issue, period. Al Stanley and I have met with them. We went to Vancouver. We've done all kinds of things. And I'll be happy later on if our Weevil lady doesn't show up to talk to you about the Weevil program very quickly too, so that before you go home, you will also have that information. So thanks, Ryan, for being put on the spot and handling it as best you can, because I do know that all of the ministries out there, including the ones in this room, it's not that they don't want to do stuff, it's that they can't. And it makes them very sad also. So anyway, Andy, we thank you for what you've done for Christina Lake. And really, ladies and gentlemen, he is a phenomenal force out there. And both of the dive teams have been very successful under Andy's. All right, and Andy will be around too, so if you want to ask some questions, you'll be
There
welcome.
was another question. She's had her hand up quite a while.
Okay, yep.
Well, I'm curious, does the fact that Christina Lake sometimes ices over in the winter and sometimes it does not, does the ice have any bearing whatsoever on how the plants grow, cutting off the light, or what is the story there?
Apparently, if the ice does cover the lake, it does help to decrease plant growth. But whether the lake freezes or not, the plants don't grow during the winter months. When the lake reaches, I believe it's below 50 degrees Fahrenheit, I should say, the plants don't grow at all. So whether the ice comes or not, the plant does not grow at all during the winter months.
Okay, thanks, Andy. It is now coffee time. Round announcement. We all need coffee, right? Don't forget to enter the door prize, please.